Woo! Today we're going to be doing a fantasy football mock draft. PPR 12 team mock. We're going to be using Fantasy Pros Mock Draft Simulator. Let's see what we can come up with. See if we can build the best team you possibly can. Let's ride. Welcome back in. Welcome back in. So, like we mentioned, today we're going to be doing a fantasy football mock draft. We are going to be utilizing Fantasy Pros Mock Draft Simulator. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. So, here it is. Here it is. Here it is. So, like I said, this is going to be a PPR 12 team mock. We are going to be drafting. We're going to hit that random button. We're going to pick from whatever it decides to give us. So, we're going to be picking from the 9th spot today. We're going to see how this draft plays out. This is 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, 2 flex, 7 bench spots, no defenses or kickers because we don't got no time for that. So let's go ahead and click that start draft button. So here we are. We are up at the 109. We have DeAndre Swift, Cooper Kupp, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley are all still on the board. This is a tough one because I really like Cooper Kupp. My favorite wide receiver to draft is Justin Jefferson here in the first round. But if Cooper Kupp, you can get your hands on him, I don't mind that. But we are going to go with DeAndre Swift here on the clock. Right around where consensus, kind of around where he's going. He's going to the back half of the first round. Next up, we have Devontae Adams, Alvin Kamara, and Saquon Barkley. CeeDee Lamb is also sitting here. I think for a lot of people here, they would probably go Alvin Kamara. I am, even without the suspension, like he's not getting suspended. We've been saying this now for the past pretty much month here on this channel that there's no shot he's getting suspended. If he was going to, it would have already have happened. Plus, they have pushed his court date back. I think the biggest problem with Alvin Kamara is how loaded this wide receiver room is, right? We've typically seen in years past where Alvin Kamara has kind of been really the 1A or really the 1B in the passing game. You might have had, like, in the prime Michael Thomas years, but there's never really been a crowded wide receiver room. But there is now. I mean, you have a healthy Michael Thomas, you have Jarvis Landry, Chris Olave. There's a ton of options here in this passing game. And I don't know if Alvin Kamara sees the same type of targets that he typically sees. Yes, he could see a little bit more carries. Last year, he had over 18 and a half carries per game. But I think we could be looking at Alvin Kamara, being not as valuable as he once has been because I don't know if he's going to see this massive target share that's what's always made him so valuable. I mean, he's a player that's had 80 receptions every year of his career except for last year. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to swing for the fences here, and I'm going to go with my guy, Saquon Barkley. Love Saquon Barkley this year. He's completely healthy. He's made it, pretty much all through camp. There's been tons of talk about him, how good he has looked so far, in the, through training camp. And, I think he is primed to break out. I think he has the RB1 upside. Yes, I said the RB1, not RB1 upside this year. Let's go ahead and check out, see what else is available here. So far, we have our two running back spots already locked up. I think we need to start looking at the wide receiver position. We have A.J. Brown, Deontay Johnson. If we want to go tight end, we could do that with George Kittle or Dalton Schultz. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock up my wide receiver 1, and I'm going to go with A.J. Brown. I think he is going to see a healthy amount of targets this year. I think you see the Eagles go a little bit more of a pass-heavy offense. I don't think you make the trade for A.J. Brown, and now you have Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert and just can be completely run-heavy again. I think they have to see what they have in Jalen Hurts as a passer, and so I think that leads to A.J. Brown seeing a pretty healthy, probably the more targets he's ever seen in his career. The most he's ever seen is, I think, 106. So let's go with that. Next up, this is pretty much easy for me. I'm going to go with Courtland Sutton. I have him as a wide receiver 1 this year. I think I have him at a wide receiver 11 in my ranking. So Courtland Sutton is an easy pick. Perfect pairing with Russell Wilson. So let's go ahead and lock him up. Next up, we are sitting here at the 509. We can look at quarterback here. Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray, Jalen Hurts are all still on the board. We have Darren Waller, Dalton Schultz. Running back, we still have 2 really solid running backs. I don't think we need to go back to running back. We also have Jerry Jeudy, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Rashad Bateman. None of the wide receivers here really stand out to me as players I just absolutely have to have. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to lock up my tight end. And I actually like Dalton Schultz more than Darren Waller. I just think, over there in Las Vegas, there is with Devontae Adams is obviously going to be the man. Hunter Renfrow is there. I just don't think Darren Waller sees the same type of target share. Or Dalton Schultz, it's kind of just CeeDee Lamb and Dalton Schultz as the 2 main pass catch offense. So I love Dalton Schultz this year, and I think they're going to be a very pass-heavy offense once again. So I'm going to go with Dalton Schultz here in the 5th round. Next up here, we are at the 604. This is a spot where I think if we really want to, we could go our quarterback. And I think that's what we're going to. So I'm going to go ahead and take Lamar Jackson. I think he's a pretty easy pick for me. That rushing floor he brings to the table. It's hard to see him, finish, anywhere outside of the top 5 or 6 guys because of that rushing upside he brings. I mean, 7, 8, 900 rushing yards is definitely in the range of possibilities. So I'm going to go ahead and lock up Lamar Jackson here, my Konami code quarterback, here in the 6th round. Next up, I think it's time to get back a little bit here, and let's take a look at what we got going on now. So at running back, A.J. Dillon is still there. I think that's who I'm going to go with. With the wide receivers, I like Hunter Renfrow, Christian Kirk, DeAndre Hopkins is still sitting there. Kadarius Toney still on the board. But I think there's some wide receivers. I think we can make this work here. Right now, we have our tight end, we have our quarterback. We're good with 2 running backs. We're already good with. I'm going to go ahead and lock up A.J. Dillon here in the 709, almost the 8th round here for A.J. Dillon. I think he has standalone value for sure. If I can get A.J. Dillon, this is right around the range I would be looking to get him. But, there's some drafts where he's going the 5th or 6th round. That's just a little too high for me for A.J. Dillon. But I definitely think he's going to be involved. He's going to be a guy that you can plug into your flex on a weekly basis. If anything happened to Aaron Jones, it is wheels fucking up for A.J. Dillon. So I think it's time to take a look at our wide receiver room. We definitely need some help here. We still only have our 2 wide receivers in A.J. Brown and Cortland Sutton through this part of the draft. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go with, here at the 804, I'm going to go with Kadarius Toney. I think really has a path to being the wide receiver 1 here for this Giants offense. Now, I don't love having Saquon Barkley and Kadarius Toney, but I do think this offense is going to be better than it was last year. For sure, with Brian Daboll in town as the head coach. We know Brian Daboll, with the Bills, what he was able to do with that offense. And, he was given a lot of credit for Josh Allen. I think some of that's a little overblown. Like, I don't think he made Josh Allen, but I think he did a good job of setting him up and putting him in the best spot. And so I think we could see this offense kind of take a pretty substantial step forward this year. No, they're not going to be some sort of like top 10 scoring offense, but even if they can get into the late teens, early 20s, is still a big upgrade from what they were with Joe Judge and company. So, and we're going to continue to look at the wide receiver position. I'm going to go with probably one of the more undervalued wide receivers in the draft right now, and that's Jacoby Myers. I think, again, last year, he had 130 targets last year. I get it. It's the Patriots offense. There's not a lot to be excited about, but he has a real rapport with Mac Jones. So I'm going to lock up Jacoby Myers here. Wide receiver room's struggling a little bit right now. So next up here, we are at the 1004. I'm going to go with James Cook here. I absolutely love him in PPR format. I think he could end up taking over this spot from Devin Singletary. He might be my 2nd favorite rookie running back to draft because of his opportunity that lays before him in an excellent offense. In terms of, so I'm going to go with James Cook here at wide receiver. So once you get to this later part of the draft, I really don't care anymore about upside, right? Or I don't care anymore about ADP. Like, this is not the time to worry about that anymore. Once you get in the back half of the draft, start drafting your guys, the players you think that could have a pretty big impact this year. And so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start this off, and I'm going to go with my guy, Joshua Palmer. Fantasy Pros is going to tell me I probably majorly overtook him here, but in the 11th round, I really don't care. The 3rd wide receiver in this Chargers offense, and if something happens, any injury comes the way of Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, it is absolute wheels up for Joshua Palmer. So I'm going to go ahead and lock him in because I don't know if I would be able to get him on the way back. We are at the 1204, and we are going to go ahead and lock up another running back here. We have Kenneth Gainwell as a player I really like. Khalil Herbert, I love him. Tyler Algiere, he makes a lot of sense. Rashad White, all of these running backs are still sitting here on the board at the 1204. I'm going to go ahead and go with my guy, Kenny Gainwell. I think he, especially in PPR formats, I think he has standalone value just in the passing game alone. It's possible, especially with Miles Sanders' propensity to always seem to get hurt. It's possible he could end up taking over this backfield and being kind of the lead back here. We are now up at the 1309. And once again, I'm going to go with running back. Again, I'm not going to pigeonhole myself into feeling like I have to take a certain position over another. There's a wide receiver coming up there are a couple wide receivers coming up that I really like. Let me see one more. I want to see if my guy, Isaiah Pacheco, is still on the board, or has he already been drafted? Yes, he has already been taken. He is starting to go earlier and earlier in drafts, especially that I've seen. So I'm going to go with the last of the guys that I really like here at the running back position, and I'm going to go with Tyler Algiere. He really has a path to being the RB1 in this backfield. So I do like getting my hands on Tyler Algiere. And then from there, we're going to jump over to the wide receiver position, and I'm going to go with my guy, Jalen Tolbert. He should not be available this late, the 1404. He is probably the starting wide receiver opposite CD Lamb in this offense right now. 3rd round pick out of Southern Alabama. I just don't think a lot of people know who he is. And so he's just not getting a lot of buzz. I think that's kind of a big mistake here for. I think he's somebody that is a excellent value going all the way in the 14th round. If I am drafting in any draft, I'm going to try to come away with Jalen Tolbert because the upside is definitely there. There's just nobody else there. James Washington went down. Amari Cooper's gone. You have Michael Gallup, who I think is probably still another month away. He even said there's no shot he's playing week one. And so I think he probably starts the year on the pup and maybe misses the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season. I mean, Jalen Tolbert is a player that I absolutely love. And so I'm going to go with another player. And I'm going to go with Christian Watson, another rookie wide receiver. Again, this is just kind of a wide open wide receiver room here in Green Bay, pairing him with, Aaron Rodgers. But you have Alan Lazard there. You have Randall Cobb. I mean, there's just nobody there in this wide receiver room. So Christian Watson, really late in drafts, is somebody that I kind of like. We have our last pick here of the draft. Again, no tight end, no quarterback needed. We could really look at either one of these positions that we really wanted to take. I don't mind a guy like Benjamin, Tyrion Davis Price. I think is a name that you could definitely look at. Dearness Johnson would be interesting if obviously Kareem Hunt got traded, but if he doesn't, I don't think he stands much to have much value over at the wide receiver position. Again, Jameson Williams is still sitting there. KJ Osborne's the number 3 wide receiver for the Vikings. He's kind of an interesting name to look at. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think he's the number 2 wide receiver here, but with Sean Watson being out until week 13, it's hard to envision a scenario where he is going to be truly fantasy relevant. I think they try to, really protect him there. And then, the rest of the names that are kind of on the board at wide receiver, Wan'Dale Robinson would be the name that I would actually go with. But me already having Kadarius Toney, I don't need 3 options from the Giants at all. So as I continue to stroll down to kind of see if there's anybody else out here that we could take a look at, and there's really just nobody else here. I wish Isaiah McKenzie was still on the board because he's somebody that late in drafts that I love to take. But I'm going to go with Zay Jones, and I know that he's not the sexiest name in the world, but I think we're really staring at him being probably the number 2 wide receiver here in this Jacksonville Jaguars offense. And this Jaguars team is going to be better than it was last year. They added Christian Kirk. Zay Jones was also brought in this offseason. But I think he's somebody that has a little bit more value than I think people realize. And I think he can be kind of the deep threat here for the Jacksonville Jaguars. And I think he can carve himself out a pretty solid role. I mean, last year he saw 70 targets. I don't think it'd be crazy to say if he gets over 100 targets this year. So taking a shot on somebody like Zay Jones, I don't really mind doing so. We're going to go ahead and take him, and that'll wrap up this draft. Let's see what grade we got. A B plus. Let's go. Not that any of this matters, but so the final squad: Lamar Jackson, DeAndre Swift, Saquon Barkley, AJ Brown, Cortland Sutton, Kadarius Toney, Dalton Schultz, AJ Dillon, Jacoby Myers, James Cook, Joshua Palmer, Kenny Gainwell, Tyler Algiere, Jalen Tolbert, Christian Watson, and Zay. My wide receivers could use a little bit of work here, I think, with this team. With having Kadarius Toney as my number 3, I would much rather have him as my number 4, number 5. That's kind of what happens whenever you take your quarterback and your tight end early. You sort of miss a little bit on that run of wide receiver. But overall, I really like this team. There's a ton of upside here sitting on this bench, and that's exactly how you should be drafting. We don't draft guys that really have a limited ceiling that just because you know their name. I mean, you see some of the players that were drafted here, like Samaje Perine and Miles Gaskin, Raheem Mostert. Don't be the guy that goes in the draft that you barely pay attention to what's going on, and then whenever you come in, you just draft all these guys. And because I've been plenty of drafts where you draft a rookie and people are like, "Who's that guy?" And I'm like, "Are you serious? How do you not know this?" And I'm like, so just pay attention. Do a little bit of research before the draft gets here, and really pay attention to these late round guys. And we're just looking for straight upside because a lot of these players are going to be guys you're going to drop, right? If something happens early on, somebody like Zay Jones might be a guy that I drop really early on, or if Tyler Algiere doesn't look like he's going to be the guy, or Kenny Gainwell. I mean, these are players you're going to drop, and so there's a really low hit rate. So don't go with the safe pick. There's no such thing in the later rounds as a safe pick. Don't go with the names you know. Go with the names go with players that just have absolute ceilings, and we don't care about anything else. So let me know in the comment section below how you think I did with this draft. What would you change? What would you do differently? Let me know in the comment section below. We will see you on the next one. Bye.